until Christ is fully formed in us. We shall pray apostolic prayers.
Part 2. Apostolic Prayers, as exemplified by Apostle Paul. Authored by Pastor Bonnie Kiyama. Welcome, beloved, to Part 2 of Apostolic Prayers, as exemplified by Apostle Paul. In the first part, we caught a glimpse, a prophetic whisper of what apostolic prayer truly is. Prayer born of revelation, not reaction. Prayer that builds, aligns, and governs. Now we open the pages fully. We step deeper into the spiritual architecture of prayer, where the Apostle Paul stands as both teacher and example, guiding us into the kind of communion that shaped the early church and still defines the true apostolic spirit today. Paul's prayers are more than words. They are windows into heaven's counsel, allowing us to see how the divine will flows through human vessels. His intercessions teach us that prayer is not simply speaking to God, it is partnering with Him to establish His will on earth. For this reason I kneel before the Father. Ephesians 3:14 NIV. Each time Paul prayed, heaven responded not with comfort but with construction. He wasn't merely asking God to do something for the church. He was laboring until Christ was formed in the church. Through his prayers, the Spirit of God revealed a process of transformation, a journey from revelation to manifestation. Prayer is not the place where man persuades God, but where God shapes man. A.W. Tozer. And now, as we turn the pages of this second part, may your heart open wider. This is not just a reading, it is a summons to ascend into divine conversation, a call to the secret place where the Spirit gives utterance, and the believer becomes a vessel through which God's eternal purpose finds expression. So come, let us walk together through this sacred revelation of prayer as we begin with the foreword, the preface, and the introduction, each one a gateway to deeper understanding. We begin with foreword. The Apostle Paul's prayers are windows into the heart of true apostolic Christianity, prayers that reach beyond personal need and touch the eternal purposes of God. He prayed not just for deliverance or blessing, but for revelation, maturity, and the fullness of Christ in every believer. This book, Apostolic Prayers, as taught and exemplified by Paul, is more than a study. It is a call to communion, to Spirit-led intercession, and the transformation that comes only through God's presence. Through grace and divine insight, unveils the spiritual architecture of prayer in the apostolic age, revealing how believers today can pray with power, purpose, and prophetic precision. For this reason I kneel before the Father. Ephesians 3:14 NIV. The man who mobilizes the Christian church to pray will make the greatest contribution to world evangelization in history. Andrew Murray. May this work awaken within you a burning passion for the secret place, where your desires merge with God's will and His kingdom manifests in your life. Preface. Every generation must rediscover the language of divine intimacy, that sacred communication that flows not from human need, but from heaven's intent. The Spirit of the Lord began to stir within me a longing, a call to return to the pattern of apostolic praying, the kind that builds people, shapes nations, and aligns destinies to God's eternal counsel. From that divine burden came this book, Apostolic Prayers. It is not a manual of petitions, but a map of formation. It invites you to enter dimensions of prayer that go beyond words, to experience transformation by the Spirit. When Paul bowed his knees, he wasn't pleading for survival. He was constructing a spiritual house, aligning the church to its head, and releasing the mind of Christ into the body. His prayers carried governmental weight, prophetic vision, and apostolic grace. Open book, the Spirit helps us in our weakness. The Spirit Himself intercedes for us. Romans 8:26 NIV. True prayer is not a mere mental exercise, but a spiritual transaction with the Creator of heaven and earth. Charles Spurgeon. True apostolic prayer perceives before it petitions, sees before it speaks, and builds before it asks. It is the language of those who have seen something eternal and can no longer pray small, earthbound prayers. We all are being transformed into His image with ever-increasing glory. 2 Corinthians 3:18 NIV. Let this book draw you closer to the heartbeat of God until prayer becomes more than communication. It becomes your place of divine construction. Apostolic prayer is not a cry from earth to heaven, but heaven forming its cry within man. Let's enter the introduction. The power of prayer and the apostolic mandate. Prayer is not a religious duty. It is the breath of divine relationship, the sacred bridge between man and God. From the dawn of creation, humanity was designed for communion, not independence. At that time, people began to call on the name of the Lord. Genesis 4:26 NIV. Prayer remains the meeting point of two wills, God's and man. Through prayer, we do not convince God to move. We align ourselves to His movement. Prayer does not fit us for the greater work. Prayer is the greater work. Oswald Chambers. 1. The divine gift of prayer. Prayer is God's invitation into His counsel. It is not man's attempt to reach God, but God drawing man into His presence. Why we need prayer. 1. To acknowledge dependence, as Adam and Eve once walked with God in the garden. 2. To receive guidance, like Hannah who prayed in anguish yet aligned with God's perfect timing. 1 Samuel 1:10-20. 3. To access power in challenges. Daniel prayed even when laws forbade it. Daniel 6:10. 4. To cultivate growth, because prayer reshapes our nature and conforms us to His image. The Bible commands us to pray, and not only pray, but pray without ceasing. 1 Thessalonians 5:17 NLT. The greatest tragedy in life is not unanswered prayer, but unoffered prayer. F.B. Mayer. 2 types of prayer. Personal prayer, like David, who poured out his soul before God in the Psalms. Intercession, like Moses, who stood in the gap for Israel, Exodus 32:11-14. Supplication, like Solomon asking for wisdom to govern, 1 Kings 3:9. Praise and thanksgiving, like Anna serving God day and night, Luke 2:37. Yet beyond all these is a higher dimension, apostolic prayer, a form of intercession that governs, aligns, and enforces heaven's order. Your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Matthew 6:10 NIV. When the church prays, the kingdom advances. 3. Who is an apostle? An apostle is a sent one, a messenger carrying divine authority and revelation. The Greek word apostolos means one who is sent with purpose. Marks of an apostle. 1. Divine calling, chosen and empowered by God, Romans 1:1. 2. Foundational leadership, establishing truth and order, Ephesians 2:20. 3. Spiritual authority, governing through revelation and grace. 4. Pioneering vision, advancing God's kingdom into new territories. 5. Intercessory power, prayer is their governing mantle. Without prayer, the apostolic call lacks power. Without intercession, authority loses direction. This is what the apostles said about prayer and the Word. We will give our attention to prayer and the ministry of the Word. Acts 6:4 NIV. Apostolic authority without apostolic intimacy will always collapse under pressure. 4. Apostolic prayer, definition and significance. Apostolic prayer flows from revelation and alignment. It is heaven praying through man. It carries governmental weight, prophetic direction, and creative power. Ordinary prayer touches God's heart. Apostolic prayer moves God's hand. Whatever you bind on earth will be bound in heaven. Matthew 18:18 NIV. Apostolic prayer is not a privilege. It is a responsibility of maturity. It is how the church legislates the will of God into visible reality. The strength of the church is not in its programs, but in its prayers. E.M. Bounds. Before we get to the apostolic prayers exemplified by Apostle Paul themselves, here are 5 examples of apostolic intercession that unveil the heartbeat of early church leadership and the divine principles that govern their relationship with Christ. These are not ordinary prayers, they are blueprints of divine communication. Each carries a revelation of God's mind for His people. Through them, we glimpse the nature of apostolic burden, to shape believers into maturity, align them with God's eternal purpose, and strengthen them for service. 1 Apostle Paul, Prayer for Revelation and Spiritual Enlightenment, Ephesians 1, 16-19 NLT. I have not stopped thanking God for you. I pray for you constantly, asking God to give you spiritual wisdom and insight so that you might grow in your knowledge of God. Paul's prayer goes beyond human needs. It reaches into the realm of revelation. His heart cries not for material blessings, but for spiritual illumination, that believers might know the mind of Christ and see beyond the veil of the natural. The theology behind this prayer is rich. Revelation is not given for curiosity, but for transformation. When the eyes of the heart are enlightened, the believer begins to operate from divine understanding. This is the foundation of apostolic maturity, to know God, not through reports, but through revelation. How to pray from this example. When you pray, ask not only for answers, but for understanding. Pray that your heart may be flooded with divine light. Seek the kind of wisdom that reshapes your perception of God's will and your place in His plan. Apostolic prayer begins where revelation is desired more than results. 2 Apostle Peter, Prayer for Growth in Grace and Knowledge. 2 Peter 3:18 NIV. But grow in the grace and knowledge of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. To Him be glory both now and forever. Peter's final appeal carries the sound of spiritual maturity, a call to continual growth. He doesn't pray that believers escape challenges, but that they increase in grace and knowledge. Grace, in the Greek charis, is divine empowerment, the inner ability to live above weakness through the strength of God. To grow in grace means to expand in the experience of divine influence, allowing Christ's nature to progressively shape one's character. To grow in knowledge means deepening our fellowship with Christ until we reflect His likeness. How to pray from this example. Pray for the grace to grow. Ask God to enlarge your heart to receive more of His nature. Don't only seek blessings, seek transformation. Let your prayer life center on becoming, not just obtaining. Growth in grace is a journey, and prayer is the posture that keeps it alive. 3 Apostle John, Prayer for Soul Prosperity and Wholeness. 3 John 1:2 NKJV. Beloved, I pray that you may prosper in all things and be in health, just as your soul prospers. John's prayer shows a deep understanding of divine balance. His words echo a holistic theology. God's desire is not just salvation of the spirit, but the wholeness of the entire person, body, soul, and spirit. Apostolic prayer is never lopsided. It harmonizes spiritual vitality with physical and emotional well-being. For John, the prosperity of the soul is the foundation of all other prosperity. A healed soul, free from bitterness, fear, and confusion, becomes the gateway to divine fruitfulness. How to pray from this example. When you pray, don't only focus on what's around you, focus on what's within you. Ask God to bring healing to your thoughts, your emotions, and your inner life. Invite Him to align your soul with His Spirit, so that peace within produces prosperity without. 4 Apostle Peter, Prayer for Divine Strength and Stability in Suffering. 1 Peter 5:10 NLT. In His kindness, God called you to share in His eternal glory by means of Christ Jesus. So after you have suffered a little while, He will restore, support, and strengthen you, and He will place you on a firm foundation. This prayer reflects Peter's shepherd heart. He doesn't deny the reality of suffering but sees it through the lens of purpose. Trials, he teaches, are not the end. They are the passage toward restoration, support, and stability. Peter's own life embodies this truth. The man who once denied Christ was later restored, strengthened, and established as a pillar in the faith. The theology of this prayer is that divine strength often emerges from divine testing. Suffering refines faith, and grace stabilizes what endurance begins. How to pray from this example. When in hardship, don't only pray for deliverance, pray for endurance. Ask God to turn every storm into a classroom of strength. Pray that your character will be refined and your foundation made firm through the process. True apostolic prayer doesn't just seek escape, it seeks establishment. Prayer for restoration and usefulness. 2 Timothy 4:11 NLT. Get Mark and bring him with you, because he is helpful to me in my ministry. John Mark's story speaks of the quiet power of restoration. Once rejected by Paul for his inconsistency, he later became a symbol of redeemed purpose. His name reappears as useful, a testimony that failure never has the final word when grace intervenes. In Acts 12:12, we read that when Peter was miraculously freed from prison, he went to the house of Mary, the mother of John, whose other name was Mark, where many were gathered together and were praying. That house became one of the earliest apostolic prayer centers, a place where faith met divine intervention. John Mark grew up seeing the power of united prayer, watching how simple gatherings could shift spiritual realities. Yet later, when he joined Paul and Barnabas on their missionary journey, fear and immaturity caused him to turn back. Acts 13:13. For a season, he was marked by disappointment, but grace called him back. Through time and humility, he was restored, serving again under Peter and later reconciled with Paul, who said, "He is useful to me in the ministry." 2 Timothy 4:11. From hosting prayer to becoming the answer to prayer, John Mark's life reminds us that the presence of God sown in our homes and hearts can bring full restoration. How to pray. When you pray, remember that every simple act of service to God has eternal value. Pray that your home, your life, may become a place where the presence of God dwells. And if you've fallen along the way, remember Mark. Restoration is possible when you return to the altar where it all began. Ask God to rekindle in you the same fire that once burned when you first hosted His presence. Apostolic intercession carries this redemptive tone, that those who once stumbled can be rebuilt into instruments of usefulness. Restoration is a work of mercy that turns brokenness into ministry. Apostolic prayer looks forward. It rebuilds hope where disappointment once ruled. These 5 apostolic prayers are more than historical moments. They are living patterns. They teach us how to pray beyond needs, beyond emotion, and into divine alignment. From Paul's revelation to Peter's endurance, from John's wholeness to Mark's restoration, we see the full spectrum of apostolic intercession, prayer that births transformation, sustains faith, and restores destiny. Apostolic prayer is not about persuading God, it is about partnering with Him. It is praying until your heart beats in rhythm with His will. And when that happens, your life itself becomes the answer to the very prayer you prayed. The prayer of a righteous person is powerful and effective. James 5:16 NIV. When prayer becomes your posture, power becomes your portion. And now, dear reader and listener, as we embark on this next phase, may the Spirit of God awaken you to pray not as one in need, but as one in partnership with heaven. May you become a builder through prayer, a vessel of divine alignment, until Christ is fully formed within you, and your words become the very echoes of His will on earth. And now, beloved, this is where we draw the curtain on part 2 of our journey through apostolic prayers, as exemplified by Apostle Paul. What a sacred walk it has been, through the corridors of divine revelation, where prayer is not mere speech but spiritual architecture, where communion becomes construction and the believer learns to legislate heaven's will upon the earth. Here, we have seen that apostolic prayer is not the cry of the desperate, but the decree of the discerning. We have learned that to pray apostolically is to think as heaven thinks, to feel as Christ feels, and to declare as the Spirit declares. We have discovered that prayer is not an escape from the world. It is the equipment to transform it. When the soul bends to pray, the heavens begin to build. Every chapter, every verse, every reflection in this section has been a call to grow deeper, to pray wiser, to live fully aligned with the will of God. And as this part comes to a close, let your spirit remain stirred. Do not let these truths fade into memory. Let them mature into movement. For prayer is not finished, it only evolves. The Spirit beckons us further. There is still more light to see, more revelation to grasp, more heights to ascend. So with gratitude and humility we pause, not as those who have reached the summit, but as those standing on a higher step, ready for the next ascent. The end of one revelation is the threshold of another. Thank you for walking this far with us, for opening your heart to the voice of the Spirit, and for letting the fire of apostolic prayer be rekindled within you. May grace keep your altar burning until we meet again in part 3, where we will journey deeper into the mysteries of apostolic intercession, exploring the living power behind Paul's actual prayers, his petitions, his burdens, and his revelations that still breathe life into the church today. Until then, remain steadfast, prayerful, and aflame with divine purpose. For the Spirit still whispers. Come up higher. Revelation 4:1 NIV. See you on part 3. Shalom, shalom.
Rendu supari di jabakati anino sate. Rando soporo do koshiandi sutaya libadande. Randu sherika payena no jadaba diede site la dabada. O jaba kaina no jadiku setia la barieku shandeya. Rabayena no shiede sutai ni kapaye lida no jadande. Rande shutaena ni kusada bayana ni jabadieza diadija. Roba koya di mashuta ya liba